the beginning of this Twitter space.
It's my pleasure to be hosted by you this day.
I'm not able to get the voice very clearly.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
About the well-being. Where I want us to speak from, I think to begin lightly, and yes, I can be able to hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I'm able to hear you.
Okay. We do apologize to all our listeners for starting off late. There were technical glitches, which fortunately have been overcome. We operate in a very difficult environment where we are at now. Hello?
Yes, we are able to hear you.
You're able to get me, okay. So we operate in a very difficult environment as a country. All the challenges we do face, in political terms, economic terms, human rights areas, the challenges are so huge. They almost cause a temptation for people to simply throw in the towel and give up. And you bump into so many people all the time. Who tell you this, people will tell you that things are so difficult, there is no way you can navigate this kind of situation. However, it's also a time when we need to know that all these challenges have been faced by people since creation. People faced all these situations. This is nothing new with us here in Uganda. All countries have gone through these kinds of situations we're going through. Many are still doing so at the same time. So we need to keep focused on what we want to see happen in this country. There have been many of our elders from before independence and immediately after, and before independence and since independence. There are many people who have struggled. They have put in all the time they have put in, made all the sacrifices that they have made. But you still meet challenges. So what we need to recognize is that this is part of life, that every generation meets these kinds of problems, may be different in magnitude, maybe in different areas of endeavor, but there must always be people who stand in the gap and keep pushing and extending the boundaries of freedom and extending the boundaries of progress, of human progress. So even before we launch into the specific questions, That's one thing we all need to recognize, that wherever each one of us finds himself or herself, those who are struggling on the women's front, those who are struggling on the economic front, those who are struggling on the political front, those who are struggling on the social front, that we have no option, we have no other option other than to keep doing what needs to be done, to keep overcoming the challenges in the areas of endeavor that we are on. We thank the women because when Shamim was making introductions, she talked about the observation of the International Day of Women. We thank the women in Uganda who pioneered on that front. We thank those who are still out there doing all things which are necessary to advance the livelihoods of women, women being at the core of society, because they are the core of the stability of homes, they are the core of stability of wherever they function. Two, they are 54% of the population. So when women are not engaged directly in all areas of endeavor, it means that you have got half of the population outside the effort to improve any area in which there would be any human endeavor. So we salute all the women who are still on the battlefront, who are not giving up in spite of whatever challenges they are meeting. And also salute the men who stand by the women on all areas where there are endeavors, who recognize them as equal partners in the national development processes. We salute the men who don't lack confidence, because men who lack confidence are the only ones who can try to subdue women. Men who have confidence wouldn't see women as competitors. They can only see them as co-partners in the development processes in whatever area of endeavor. Now, on the side of the other areas of challenge that we face, is the area of Yarkam. Go ahead, Shamim. Yeah, it goes back to the question of governance. We really need to keep working across all areas, socio-economic, political, to have a network of men and women who recognize that the moment you resolve the issue of governance, because it is the platform upon which many other people are able to advance whatever endeavors they're involved in, whether it is in politics, whether it is in business, whether it is in social areas, governance is the platform on the base of which everything else moves. Once there is a problem in governance, it spills over and affects in a negative way or other areas of endeavor. So we cannot get tired of talking about the issue of networking of people who are like-minded, who know that men and women of integrity, men and women who want to see justice, men and women who believe in the equality before the law, men and women who believe in equal opportunities, men and women who believe in transparency, that they have to keep networking until they build a firm foundation for good governance. We can't escape that. Even when it comes to whether it is in the area of women, indeed, if you don't have that network, which is effective, which creates the necessary impact, creates a stable platform on which the people who are in governance recognize that, you know what, we are operating on a common front. Our main objective is to advance the country, and therefore you need all hands on board. And that people who have got different talents, endowed by different talents by God, whether they are women, whether they are men, whether they are youth, whether they are middle-aged, or whatever age they have, whether in business or politics or whatever, that the main objective to be focused on is national development that benefits all. That there is trust in systems of governance. That people know that if there is a problem in the area of justice, I walk to a police station, I will lodge a case, it will be investigated in a professional way, that it will be forwarded to the DPP, that it will be prosecuted in the courts of law, that there will be transparency, that there will be fairness, that there will be fair demonstration of justice. That if it is in a hospital, that they'll go and get the best medical services that money can buy. That if they go to education, they've got the highest levels of education for their kids. That if they go in the workplace, that there's an environment that recognizes that there is talent, that someone is well-trained for the job that they have applied for, that they can get it fairly without bribing anybody, that there's no nepotism. That the moment all those are recognized and they are established in a system of governance, there's nothing that can stop a country from prospering. That's what we've been struggling for since before independence. That's what we've been struggling for since independence. That's what we are struggling for even up to now. I mean, we could spend 24 hours talking about the negative things which are happening, which are many: corruption, you know, the trampling on people's rights and freedoms, all the things which are happening, and we will be talking about some of them in detail, responding to the questions that you raised, Shamim. However, we have to keep looking at how do you get rid of all the negative things that are happening? Because at times we spend more time looking at the negative things, one, without knowing that unless you create the capability that can make those negative things history, that you can remain trapped in a vicious cycle. And that's where we've been for more than 60 years. If you add in the years before independence, the negative things are known. I mean, every day on radio, on TV, on social media platforms, all of them are brought up. So we know where we are at. We know in the area of corruption. We know, look at what is happening in the area of senior leaders in government. On the Karamoja is the poorest area in the country. The Karamojong people have had the worst raw deal since independence. That you can have ministers who divert iron sheets. The explanations are hilarious when you look at the explanations people give. And it is almost like it's a normal thing. And this is my perspective in regard to that. I know many people are giving comments in that regard. They're expecting that is something so outrageous. They're expecting that government will take action. I doubt whether there will be action in that regard. So the issue, there are so many things like that which are happening, which are heartbreaking. But we have also seen them happen over the years. So the question is, how do we reverse that? We have to pay a lot of attention in that regard. And therefore, that network of like-minded people who already know what the problems are, but who work around the clock to offer the solutions, we have to keep paying attention to that. Thank you, Shamim. And those are my thoughts in regard to the women, and partly I ventured into the area of what is happening on the Karamoja issue. It is so, it's so heartbreaking at times. You can't even understand how things like that can happen in a modern, in what is supposed to be a modern state. Okay, thank you, Shamim, for that question about the Sere by election. And indeed, you indicate that Honorable Wadi Salaso is an experienced leader, which we all agree with. Honorable Wadi Salaso is a woman of integrity. Honorable Wadi Salaso cuts across the board. Besides being a woman, she's also a leader whom one can trust when it comes to issues of governance. However, my own perspective on this question of by-elections, you see, we have two problems. One, we have a problem at the level of leaders across the leadership class or the political elite, maybe if I should call ourselves that. So we are never able to respond to the call of leadership for the last 60 years. Every time there's an opportunity for any team of leaders to get into power, what they focus on first and foremost is how to advance themselves and how to basically survive in power. Maybe that is also linked to the second problem. Second problem being, the people have become so many times burnt that it seems they have given up hope on politics and leadership. They seem to think that all of us who are in politics are the same. So even if one group leaves and another comes in, that's how they will also act. So they seem to have reached a conclusion that for them to benefit, that the only chance for them to benefit is immediate. That if they are not able to get whatever crumbs politicians give them during the electoral period, that they are not going to get any other chance for them to directly benefit. So the basis of the choices that people make and the basis for making those choices is completely upside down. That has, I think, caused the environment of the success of commercialization of politics by the regime, which the regime wants. The population has fallen for that, unfortunately. So we are in that dilemma, and it is a trap. So again, it calls for the people who see through that, who are able to make that analysis, want not to give up, because it is tempting to give up. I mean, once you got these by-elections, even the general elections, and you're talking to the rural population, and many of them are saying they need so we have to keep on doing things which build hope in the people, and for them to work with the leaders who are genuine to create medium, long-term solutions, that whatever money they are getting in the immediate, it can't take them for more than 1 week in the first place, that they must keep on making decisions on choosing good leaders who will be able to build the foundation on the basis of which they can have meaningful solutions to their current problems. So it's a dual thing. We must work to solve the problems on the leadership front, but also simultaneously work to build trust and hope in the population. It's tough, it is tough, it is tough, but it is possible. We have to keep doing all things which are humanly possible to resolve those two problems. So we can't give up on the population, because in a case if we give up on the population, we'll also be giving up on ourselves, because we can't live as islands. You can't live as an island, any of us. So you cannot get one group like an elite group, even. I didn't pick the last question, unfortunately. I didn't get you. Okay. Okay. Yes, we went to Serere by-election not expecting that it was going to be a walk in the park, more so having done analysis since after 2021 election, that this regime has now taken a totally different path when it comes to by-elections. Okay, the vote is manipulated in the general elections. We notice a new trend where they just simply determined to take every by-election by hook or crook, and the dilemma there, I think, for those of us who are in the position would be, does it make any sense for us to participate anymore? There are those who may choose not to participate at all. There are those of us whose thinking is, you see, if we don't participate, in spite of all the impediments which are put in our way, that you lose the opportunity to keep on building hope, because even in the worst form of dictatorship, there must be those who keep on raising the element of hope in society. Two, also to keep on galvanizing people who don't give up, because it's a building process. If in a by-election, even if out of 100 people, you get 50 who lose hope, but you maintain 50 who gain hope. And then you keep building on that and building on that, because there's going to be a turning point at some point. It is natural. So there must be engagement. So we have to keep doing that. That's what we, like in Serere, Serere was just a mess. 15 by-election, polling centers were directly overrun by security services under RDCs, and they just went and ticked. The Electoral Commission that would have stepped in to, for example, cancel those, because that would be the most effective countermeasure. If they canceled those areas or polling stations which were interfered with, it would neutralize those who have made the electoral process a joke. But the Electoral Commission itself is disempowered. They operate at a level of survival. The police itself was completely incapacitated. The areas where I myself went and rang all manner of phones for commissioners, for police people, commanders in the area, to come the areas to get a solution for those particular areas. They reached a point where they were overwhelmed, and they would not even show up. And eventually the 15 polling stations, nothing happened. You know, so it's so the question is not who wins, who loses. To me, the question is having a fair process, a transparent process. Once you determine to take the route of building democracy, because you see, pretense is the worst thing. If you know you are incapable, or at that point, it is not necessary, from my own estimation, to build a democratic process, to have a free and fair election. Then you determine and say, you know what, we cannot have elections. Our focus is on the economic front. We are going to focus on building a foundation, the best of which you run a country. Then you do that, like we saw Singapore do, like we saw South Korea do at some point. Then everybody knows the premises on which you're operating. You don't say one thing for sure, and you don't do things contrary to what you would have said. That's where the biggest problem is. And then you find the elite, like those who are in the courts, those who are in police, those who are in the Electoral Commission, all of them now participate in that facade. Whom are we telling lies to? We would be telling lies to ourselves as a society. You know what? It depends on the mindset mindsets that we operate from. Look at nature itself. There are things which are short term. There are things which are medium term. There are things which are long term. And I mean, even look at those who are involved in agriculture. That there are things you will grow and you can harvest within a month, like vegetables, or like beans for 3 months. But there are things like coffee, which you have to spend for 2 years. There are other things which you may even spend 5 years before you reach harvest. So whatever you choose to do, you need to understand how long it may take you to harvest. Now, go to the area of business. We all go to town, whatever endeavors we're involved in. Those who are running maybe a kiosk, someone is driving a taxi, someone is running a business startup. One thing I have recognized, the majority of us as human beings, regardless of the challenges we meet in business, those who are called to do business, you'll spend every hour that you have, regardless of the challenges you make and you meet, until you reach the point of breakthrough. So you can remain in business even when you get challenges. At times you lose money, you start afresh, you lose money, you start afresh. You can even reach your 40s, 50s before you hit a breakthrough. But you keep going back. So the question I ask people, I say, if we don't give up when it comes to the area of looking for money, how can we give up on politics, which is at the core of our human existence? Because the environment that we operate in is influenced by politics. So if you give up on politics, it means that you are ready to live in whatever anybody dishes out to you, whatever anybody else decides on the things that influence your or impact on your life directly. So just like we pursue money until we reach retirement age, we reach our 70s, 80s, some people even will pursue money beyond that time, is the same zeal, the same effort that we must invest in the area of politics until we succeed. So in brief, those of us who are in the ANT, we cannot give up in the area of trying to build the necessary infrastructure, because we know that this regime will come to an end. We may not know the day, but we also know that there must be governance when the regime falls. We cannot wait for that to happen for us to start doing what is necessary to be done. So now that we have gotten out of this by-election, we're going to resume the effort that we were engaged in before. Keep doing the things to attract Ugandans who think alike, and we keep building until that time of breakthrough, which we know by God's grace there will be that time. We can't give up on something that is at the core, at the center of our livelihoods. Maybe except those who would choose. If one was to choose to go to, say, whatever stable country, yes, many of us who are educated, you can choose and go to countries that already have systems of governance where you can go get a job or do business in a stable way. But there are many who won't go anywhere else, who will remain here, and they must create the environment here, which we try to, that's where we come in. I don't think we have any other option other than to keep on operating within whatever environment. To me, what encourages me most is that when you look at history, I mean, like 200, 300 years ago, you can imagine the environments that many of the people who have now better conditions in which they are operating. I mean, you see countries like in Europe, you can see some of the countries in Latin America, which are now stable, which have got functioning economies, functioning governance systems. Suppose they had given up because of the conditions they're operating in then, would they be where they are at now? They wouldn't. And I can tell that there is no environment in which you cannot organize. Even I mean, look at a country like Burma. Look at countries which are so heartbreaking. What is happening, like in Haiti? But there are people there who keep operating, who keep on, looking at the situation, dark as it is, and they keep doing all things which are humanly possible. We have no options. This is our country. We have to do all things which are humanly possible. And while there is a space shrinks, it is not impossible for us to organize. It's just simply not possible. Even as we are here, I mean, we are not in any, we are not in a, we are not on a rally, we are not in one location, but we are communicating. Technology has even enabled us to do that. Because organization means like-minded, Hassan minds, knowing that we have a common front, putting objectives that you want to achieve, organizing how you will achieve them, networking how you do, so many things. There are so many aspects to organization. So however difficult the situation is, we must keep doing everything humanly possible to set ourselves free. The only thing that any dictatorship can imprison is the human body. I mean, they can throw you behind bars, yes. That can restrict you from movement. But what we can't afford, what we must not accept, is to have our own minds imprisoned. Because the moment you let fear paralyze you to a level where you cannot operate, then even when you're in your own house, you are worse off as a prisoner than someone who is in prison, a physical prison, but whose mind is active. So we can't. It is possible to still organize. This is my own belief. And we need to keep doing whatever we are doing at the different platforms, the parties, the civil society organizations. But can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm also, I can also hear, Yona, that there is a lot of yes, please, go ahead. I didn't get that. I didn't get the last question. Until we succeed. Until Shamim, and until we succeed. As long as there are people who are on the front lines without giving up. If one generation is not able to succeed, they hand over a baton to another generation, and the generation also continues until we achieve the standards of governance that we need as a society. I don't see any other option from that. You see, what is encouraging is that we see countries which are where we would desire to be. And those countries are made up of human beings like we are. And when you read their history, they went through what we are going through. So if really, what other encouraging factors would we be looking for other than that? You know, to know that what we are going through is not unique to us. To where we desire to be is not something that is so utopian. We see countries which are where we desire to be. And we know where they came from. So why on earth would we give up on ourselves? I simply can't decipher that. So basically, we can't give up. We have to keep fighting. Once, if our generation is able to streamline all these things, good, with thanks be to God. But if we are not, another generation the baton would be handed over to another generation. That continues. That's how people who live as a free people operate. People who are not able to think and act as a free people end up being enslaved. That's littered in history. You can look, history, when people give up on themselves, they're always enslaved. Until they reach a point where they say enough is enough, and there is evidence to that. When they rise up, they change the environment. So what other lessons would we need to learn? They are all over the place. We only have to read history. That's all. And also look at the current, contemporary politics of the world. No, our effort is to link with people who are like-minded, one who operate from a mindset of knowing that however difficult in a situation, that you don't allow yourself to be discouraged, you don't allow yourself to be diverted by circumstances or conditions within which you're operating, that you must keep focused on what you desire to see happen. The more you build people who are like-minded, the more capacity you are building in terms of exerting your influence and changing the situation. That's what we keep working on. And two, we're encouraged by the fact that people who change nations are never in millions, you know. You just don't even need 10,000 Ugandans operating from different platforms, operating at different levels, who are able to coordinate in a well-organized way. And the moment there is a point of change, which always happens, that they are able to influence a situation and transform it to the desired end where they want it to see happen. That's what we are trying to work on. You know, you cannot wait for the millions of Ugandans to shift in their thinking. Most people are never pioneers. When you look at societies, pioneers are always few. The other second, they are always maybe actually less than 10, 20%. Then you get about 30, 40% who follow the pioneers, and then the masses always follow thereafter. So right now, we are not looking for the millions of people. We are looking for a core group of Ugandans who say enough is enough. Once we get the opportunity, and that opportunity also comes from preparation, because when preparations meets with opportunity, then you get success. So we cannot sit back and say, because the danger that I notice here in Uganda is people are focusing a lot on this regime which is on and saying, we must first remove the regime. But see, that will happen, whether we like it or not, whether Genome 7 is, keeps awake 24 hours, there's a point of change. It always happens, it's a natural thing. So there has to be constant organization so that when the change process itself happens, that there's a team of men and women who exert influence to break the country out of the vicious cycle we've been in, that has been established since independence, and therefore go on a new track. But if we get trapped and say, you know what, let's first remove the regime and then start organizing, most times it's too late. By the time you get in there, the challenges of power itself, I have been in power. I know where the challenges are. I know where the temptations are. When you go in with people who are not like-minded, who are not coordinating, the first 2-3 years, you'll all be dispersed. Literally, you'll most likely be doing the same things that this regime is doing and those before it. So that's why we have to keep organizing, build a critical number of people who are well organized around common objectives so they can exert the influence to break this country of the vicious cycle in which it is. That's our main objective. Others who listen to the message, we are planting seeds, because also seeds are very, very important. Not every time you throw a seed in the ground. In some cases, it can, grow in 3 months. I read a story about the Chinese bamboo, where you grow a seed and it never germinates for 5 years. But after it germinates, it grows in the first 1 year, 90 feet. If it will not have built the root networks in those 5 years before it surfaces, because when it grows 90 feet in the first 1 year after germination, it is vulnerable to winds. But because the 5 years, it is building a ground root network. And suddenly, 5 years after that, the seed comes out of the soil, grows 90 feet, even when the wind comes. It is buttressed. That's what I should liken to what we need to do right now. We must build those networks. And the networks are not only in physical terms, the networks also in terms of thinking, because thinking advances before actions. But there are people who want to act even without the great conditions for linkage in thinking. You must be thinking alike, be moving in the same direction. You can imagine if you go in government, you are 200 senior people, maybe in an organization, and all of you have got different directions in your minds. You can end up in 100 different directions. But if you are 200 and 150 of you are thinking alike, and you have common objectives, and you have built resilience, and you have got capabilities to know that you will transform a country amidst whatever challenges you meet, you will be able to do that. You cannot do that on the night when you take power. You must do it before. Well, first, Karamoja is really a reflection of the state of mind of those who are in power. Basically, I mean, we shouldn't even have any debate. You just have to look at Karamoja, and you know that what reflects his current regime, the way they operate. One, because they could not, there is no reason anybody can give on Karamoja, for example, to say that politically there have been any impediments. Karamoja has been, you know, supporting NRM right from for the last 30 years. We know, even us as opposition, have always had problems in penetrating Karamoja. So Karamoja is being largely, maybe 80+% for the movement. So one would have expected that Karamoja would be reflecting the mind of the regime. It would be reflecting what they think in terms of development. One would be going and saying, you know what, this area has had no political challenges, and we have concentrated effort, and we have developed it in terms of road infrastructure, in terms of health, in terms of education, in terms of engaging people in the developing the resources of the area. But it is one of the most devastated in terms of service delivery. That's one aspect. So the leaders in Karamoja themselves are weak. And that's the very reason why the rest of us must rally around the MPs of Karamoja to ask for accountability, much as they are part and parcel of the regime. Because Karamoja is richly endowed. They have got a lot of mineral resources. They have got high potential for development. But the core driving force of those who are in the regime is self-advancement. So every time they see an opportunity in Karamoja, the interpretation in their own hearts and minds is how do they benefit from that? And therefore, they don't spend time in trying to organize the population, to organize the leaders, because they don't want any form of resistance for those who want to go and exploit Karamoja. That's why, like, ministers can go and do what they have done in regard to Anshis, but Anshis is just a small bit of what is happening. So I see many people expecting action in regard to those who have looted the Anshis. Nothing is going to happen, in my own estimation, because that's the mindset of the regime. That's what they are simply doing. We're only seeing Anshis because it is the new thing on the public radar. If I suspect that in 2-3 weeks, something else will emerge. The stealing of Anshis is going to become another normal thing, pushed below the carpet, and we'll just keep moving as if nothing happened. That's the sad part. For me, I'm not shocked really by what is happening in all those ministries, because nobody can give you what they don't have. That's what surprises me about people who get surprised about what is happening. What you see happening from all these areas of government where there is stealing, where there is looting, where there is irresponsibility, they're just giving us what they have. We are fighting a culture beyond the individuals, beyond General Museveni, beyond all the leaders that you can mention names. People don't recognize that they are representatives of the culture. And unless that culture changes, you'll have different names, different faces, different gender, but all different ages, but doing the same thing. That's why those of us who are in the opposition, who want to see qualitative change, must keep building. And because you are not going to create human beings. Fortunately, there are many Ugandans who want to see the right things done. It's just a question of coordinating them so that they can impact on the situation positively because of what is within them. You look at the 400 and plus members of MPs of the movement. Okay, they're also opposition members, but they are not a significant number, so they cannot easily influence what happens there. So if you have got 529 members of parliament, of whom about 400 and something are MPs of NRM, and they are supposed to be the cream of society, and so many wrong things happen, and they don't show any sense of responsibility to reverse the trend. What does that tell us about us as a people? It means that the good Ugandans are not in politics. So so we must keep attracting them inside politics so that they are able to change this trend. There's no other route in which this country can change. Even when you have physical changes in terms of human beings who get in there, if their thinking is rooted in the current culture, you will not see any qualitative change. Yeah, accountability is a critical area of need in this country. And therefore, I think everybody who is engaged in politics or engaged in trying to change this society, that's an area of concentration. We need to keep on coordinating in our different spaces, in our different spheres of influence, to build a critical number of people who will exert that influence to be able to change society, to be able to have accountability in areas of leadership. So there must be continuous effort.